Good morning.
Morning.
Start by telling us your name
Karl Lyons Jr.
and your rank.
Rank was Sergeant, E4,
Okay. And branch of service,
United States Air Force.
Air Force. And when did you serve?
I served from 94 to 97.
What is your connection to Southwest Virginia?
Actually, I don't have a connection here. It was kind of funny. I'm from South Carolina, so when I got out of the military in 97, I came back home to South Carolina to Berkeley County. And I decided when I met my wife and we got married, I was like, I'm tired of all these people. Just way too many people here. And I said PTSD was getting a little bit worse, and I said I need something quiet. So I moved my whole family to Chesapeake, Virginia, where my wife's father is from. After her grandmother passed away, she said I could move anywhere I wanted to, which I wanted to move to Alaska. I wanted to go back to Alaska. She said no, couldn't move out that far. So she told me I could pick any mountainous area in Virginia. So I picked. I put in my phone what area in Virginia gets the most snowfall per year, and Tazewell popped up as number one. And we moved to Tazewell, and I've been in Tazewell now for 11 years.
So you do have a connection to Southwest Virginia.
Well, that connection is snow, yes, ma'am, because I hate the heat. Oh, I hate heat.
Okay. Um, so how and why did you enter the military?
I am seventh generation military. My family goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War. Um, we had Colonel Colton Lyons in the Revolutionary War. It goes all the way down the line through all my ancestors. I'm seventh generation. My son just joined the Army. He's eighth generation now. I thought it was going to end with me, but it didn't. So my son decided he wanted to join the Army, and he is a A1 Abrams mechanic and a forward observer.
Well, when did you go in? Like, what was your process of when you joined?
Oh, I joined in '94.
Yeah.
I joined right out of high school. I knew I wanted to go in. I mean, I was we were military. My dad was a drill sergeant. Um, he died in '77 after Vietnam. Um, I I knew I was going to go in. I mean,
Okay. What are some of the jobs that you performed while serving?
well, in the '90s we didn't have that many people. It wasn't like after 9/11. After 9/11, everybody joined the military. It was just a massive, just everybody. Just I mean, people that 30s were joining. You know, in their 30s, early 40s were even joining as well. So we had huge jobs, and when I was in, I was a combat medic. I was a life support tech. When I was over, if we needed, if there wasn't a corpsman near, I would go with the guys in the Army or Marines. If that was not doing, I was doing my other job as a life support tech. That was putting life saving equipment aboard C-130s. I was stationed in Little Rock Air Force Base, Arkansas, which is the largest C-130 base in the world. We put parachutes and everything on planes, and well, we did chemical warfare training. I was also a continuation training of life saving POW training and survival training as well.
You talked about this a little bit already, but what were some of the places that you lived?
Ooh, well, Little Rock Air Force. Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. San Antonio, Lackland Air Force Base is our basic training. It's the only base training for the Air Force in the United States. From there, I went to Wichita Falls at Shepherd Air Force Base for medical training. Left there, I went to Guam. After Guam, I went to Little Rock Air Force Base. From there, I went to land survival and POW training at Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington State. From there, I went to Pensacola Naval Air Station for water survival. From there, I went to Anchorage, Alaska for cold weather survival training. Then we went overseas, and I went into Oman, which is in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Khobar Towers, Dhahran, which was bombed in 1996. I left 5 minutes before the bombing hit. Killed 25 men and women. Unfortunately, the guy that took my bunk, he passed away. He was killed. Um, it's hard to um, it's hard to come to terms with stuff like that sometimes. But I'm dealing with it. It's a process. Um, from there, I went to Frankfurt, Germany, Ramstein, Germany, at Kaiserslautern. From there, we flew into Tuzla, Bosnia Strike Base Eagle, which is where I got my expeditionary medal, which is my combat medal. We were shot at with a surface-to-air missile in our plane, and we were able to evade, luckily. But you have to get shot at to be able to get that medal. So I actually am a combat veteran. Um, I'm a combat veteran from the Gulf War and from Tuzla, Bosnia.
When you were away from home, how did you stay in touch with friends and family?
We didn't have cell phones during the 90s. Um, the only phone we had was this old button phone, and it was they called it, I think it was a intercontinental phone, I think is what it's called, and it had the worst reception on the man. When you picked the phone up, all it was static, and you could barely hear. I could barely hear my mom in the background, and I would call her periodically. If I was on the Eisenhower one time, USS Eisenhower, and I was calling her on the phone, I could hear her better from that phone than I could hear from the land phones. So usually it was a landline phone is the only way you get in touch with family and friends back home.
Um, so could you share with us a memorable experience from your military service? It could be serious or lighthearted.
This one. I went to Oman in 1996. I set up a unit there, and I built the unit up there, and I was a sergeant, and we had everything set up, and then I got sent down to Saudi Arabia to Khobar Towers in Dhahran. I just told you about that where we got bombed. Um, the bombing took place because they were upset with us, of course, as Islamic extremists. They almost got into the gate. They weren't able to get into the front gate because they didn't have the registration for the truck. The bomb was so large it put a 20-foot crater in the ground. It took out three guys that I knew that was playing basketball in front of operations building. You can look on the internet and look up that actual bombing. The entire front of the operations building was completely blown off. And it's the only reason why we lost that many people was because it was so close to the fence line. We call them hot bunks because, one guy gets out, another guy gets right back in. The kid was 19 years old. I was already 21. I joined when I was 19, so I was already 21 at that point. Um, Kid had his whole life ahead of him. It makes you wonder why one person makes it when another person doesn't. I've learned you can't dwell on that because if you do, it'll drive you crazy. Luckily, through the VA, they have helped me greatly, with working through things like that. But it is a point in your career that you have to decide what you're going to do. So it was a learning moment, but it was a very surreal moment as well.
Finally, what message would you like to pass on to the next generation about military service?
Everybody should join. Everybody. The military will not only give you a skill set to learn from when you get out. It also teaches you discipline. It teaches you attention to detail. It teaches you love of country. In this time and age, we really need people to have love of country. Nobody cares about the U.S. anymore, and we need that more than ever. Plus, we need people to be able to protect us in this time, where we're at right now. But I believe for all the generations that's coming up right now, and the generation and the next generation, I think they all should join the military. At least one. Just do a 4-year tour, do a 6-year tour. Just do it one time. If you like it, stay in, do your 20, and retire. Unfortunately, I got hurt kind of bad, so I couldn't stay in. I wish I could have. They wouldn't let me. But everybody should try to stay in and do your 20 and enjoy it. You get to see the world. I mean, where else, what other job that you can really say that you only have one uniform you have to wear? Periodically, you have to put on your dress uniform, but one uniform, just one uniform, and you get to go all over the world. It's wonderful. I mean, it's one of the best experiences that most men and women will ever get to have in their lifetime.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.